Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Simon Davenport. I'm a brand new freelancer, subcontractor, hobbyist, camera guy, and I wanted to give you a very real, genuine review of the first camera I ever really purchased, and that was the Canon 90D. Is it in fact the king of crop sensors? Let's talk about it. All right, so yeah, we are talking about a camera that got me through a really tough year, 2020, rough for everybody. But I picked this up right at the end of 2019. It was the first camera I ever really spent money on and bought. Wanted to get into vlogging. The church I work at had a Canon Rebel, like a T5i or something. Initially picked up a GoPro, I think the Hero 7, and rigged it out with all the stuff and had fun with it. But quickly realized I was missing a little something, and so did my research, talked to my wife, and we took the jump. So just the body, I think this camera was $1,200. At the time, I could not imagine spending $1,200 on a camera, right? Like, I'm not a professional. I never made $1 doing this. It seemed crazy. But after some many YouTube videos and stuff, I was like, all right, I'm going for it. I want to do it. It just came out. I was really pumped about it. And honestly, the thing that really made this camera stand out to me was the fact that it does time-lapse movies. And I think I've used a time-lapse movie twice since I've owned it. So yeah, that was a great little thing that Canon dangled in front of me that I thought I really needed, and it ends up I never use it. But I'm so glad I picked up this camera. So let me really quick just tell you about the specs of the camera, whatever. I'm gonna go quick because you can find this information anywhere. And then I'm gonna talk about why I really like this camera for where I'm at with my video stuff and with my day job. All right, so it looks like this has a 32.5 megapixel sensor. It's a crop sensor, so it's not a full frame camera, but it's not crazy expensive either, right? So that's all good. And let me just tell you, it's got really good ISO. So for whatever I was shooting on, this thing basically, I thought it took glow in the dark footage in low light. I realize now it's not like a super camera like I thought it was, but it's good. It's really good. It takes great stills. I'm really just kind of getting into that, so I haven't even touched the potential of just the photos this thing can take. But it's got a really good image, and it's pretty top of the line as far as the APC sensor game goes. Some cool things: it shoots 120 frames per second, which is that cool slow-mo stuff, and it does it in camera. It also shoots 60 frames per second, and it has two 4K options. And so it gives you a 4K image that doesn't crop. I mean, obviously the image is already cropped because it's on a crop sensor, but then the whole sensor can do 4K. But there's another way you can option. Let me say, you can crop in to the 4K. So you started with a crop and then it crops again. But that cropped 4K, it says might overheat the camera. It's never overheated the camera for me, and it's a remarkable difference. And so this thing shoots really good 4K. The camera does not have any physical stabilization, but it does have all the stuff that Canon's putting in their cameras, the digital IS. It's got two kind of tiers of it, and it does pretty good. Depending on what you're doing, I ruined some shots with it because I didn't understand how it worked, and I'm sure you can find videos about it. But basically, it kind of tries to square up on the subject, and so if the subject's head's moving, say in a video like this, back and forth, the whole shot will move back and forth, and you'll drive yourself crazy trying to figure out what it is. It's the in-camera stabilization, the digital IS, but it's pretty good, especially for vlogging, which is what I use this for mostly now. It's really good. I've never really had a problem with it. All right, so here's where this camera really stands out to me and why I would recommend this to anybody that's willing to ante up, the $1,100, $1,200 it costs right now, just for the body. It stands up with the big boys. So when I basically bought this camera, like I said, I thought oh my god, I'm about to spend over $1,000 on a camera body, because if you're not familiar with cameras, you have no idea what to expect. This is an expensive path to take. So if you're brand new to this, just heads up, warning. So basically, as soon as I got the camera, I got partnered with this ministry that's in multiple cities, and I was a New York City shooter. So I was helping create like social media content, like, you know, marketing stuff. And I was just one of many shooters, and I was in New York City. And I had a brand new 90D, but I think I was the only guy that was shooting on crop sensor cameras. So everyone else had full frame cameras that shot in C-Log or some kind of log footage, and I was the only guy that didn't. And I was worried that I was gonna get laughed at and blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, and a couple people asked me, so what are you shooting on? I told them the 90D, and they were like puzzled because they just figured it's a crop sensor, but it's new. And, you know, I just found some tutorials on how to really flatten out my image in camera without, what is it, Cine-Log or whatever, Cine Styles. And so, yeah, I basically just give them the flattest image I can get out of this. And I remember I sent my footage in, and they put it on a timeline with, you know, other different full frame shots, and it stands up. Now, albeit it's only 8-bit, so for the color grading, it's not 10-bit or 12-bit like some of the other guys are shooting on. But this 8-bit APC, APS, whatever camera, it was hanging tight with the other guys. And so I think a lot of that was just trying to get really good shots that I knew we could do well in. But I was like proud of it. I was like, all right, little guy, you know, me and you were hanging with the big boys, you know? And so that's something that's really cool about it, is that the 4K in this camera is really good. Something else I really like about it, of course, is the flippy screen that you can touch and maneuver. And it's small and compact. I think when I first got it, I was like, oh, this thing is so big. And now it just feels like a little guy compared to the 1DX3 that I'm shooting this video on now. My only gripes with the 90D is I've learned that it doesn't have the best dynamic range. I find it struggles when there's really bright and really dark stuff in the same shot. Ultimately, the bright stuff gets blown out most of the time for me, because when I try to pull if I underexpose it and then try to bring it up, it's like there's noise in the darker end, and so I just blow it out. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing that you got to beware. I've got some ND filters for it. Those kind of color the image. So I haven't really dialed it in, but for right now, I just kind of try not to shoot directly into sunlight, and it seems to work pretty good for me. But that's really it. I mean, the 8-bit color grading thing, I mean, that's not the end of the world. And then the fact that there's no in-body stabilization, that really isn't the end of the world either. So I would just say the dynamic range is really the only thing that kind of is a bummer. The video, the sizes, like the different types of files it records in, it's all IPB, so there is no all-I option, but that means that everything can fit on a regular old memory card, and you don't have to get the really brand new expensive ones. And so that's actually a blessing. Like, everything on this camera is pretty inexpensive. All the lenses are inexpensive. And I didn't think they were when I first started buying them, but I'm like, yeah, those are inexpensive. The lenses are inexpensive, you know, all the little stuff. So it's a really great camera to get started in. So my final thoughts on this is that this was the perfect first purchase for me as far as I'm getting into video. Like I said, I think the first month I bought this camera, I had already paid for it with some of the shoots I was doing. And that's not to say that if you buy this camera, you'll start making money. But for me, this was the first piece of equipment that I could charge people like video work for. If that makes sense, right? The other stuff I had, the quality wasn't good enough to charge. So this is kind of the first stop for me and to be able to charge people for video work, you know? And the way that this camera was designed is it's not a super deep dive into the camera world and video and to learn, but it was like a great like crash course for me. Like, I had to learn my way through this camera, learn my way through the video side, and then I did the still side later. But it has so many different types of autofocus and just different, the way that it exposes. You can mess with the exposure levels, and it just had a lot of things that I didn't know about when I first got it. I just could kind of ignore it and use the camera well. But the longer I've had it, the more I've kind of grown into it. And now, about the time that I tapped out with how deep it could go, I really was in a place to be able to use a more expensive camera. Like, if I had skipped this and jumped into a bigger camera, I think I would have this expensive piece of equipment that I really didn't know how to use. But this has really been an awesome like teacher, so to say, when it comes to like video work and stuff. My last thing I want to tell you about this camera is it is the ultimate zoom god. Like, it has a clean HDMI out, which means that if you get a little capture card, or I think there's firmware that's coming out or has come out, I don't know, you can plug an HDMI cable, an HDMI mini into this, basically get it on a tripod or whatever. You have to figure out your audio, but this thing will serve as a webcam. So literally every Zoom call, Skype call for work or for ministry or whatever I got to do, I use this. And the first couple, like, you know, I give it 30 seconds of every Zoom call when I'm talking, they're like, everyone's like, oh my God, your picture is incredible, you know? And so I don't think that actually benefits me in life and moves me ahead in my purpose and why I'm on the earth. But you know what? It's not bad to have the best Zoom quality camera in every single chat you're gonna be in. You might as well flex on people. I mean, if you're stuck at home, you just, come on, you know, you gotta do it somehow. But that's it. With a couple $100 lenses, you know, a body that's just over like $1,000, memory cards that are cheap, batteries that are cheap. I mean, it's not very heavy, so you don't need like expensive tripods. And you know, if you wanted to get a stabilizer, it doesn't have to be a beast of a stabilizer. Like, this is the ultimate like get into cameras camera for that I would recommend to anybody. And here at the end of 2020. Going crazy on YouTube through the pandemic, I would say that this is the ultimate vlog solution. It does not have internal stabilization, but let me just give you the hack on it, right? Grab the 10-18 Canon EFS, that wide angle lens, that zoom. It's not super fast, but you'll be all right. You just put it on the camera. You turn the digital, what is it called? The digital stabilization. You crank that up, you put it in 4K, and then you crop the 4K, and then you put the lens on like maybe 11, 12 millimeters, whatever, and then you vlog with that thing, and it looks so good and it's so smooth because that lens has image stabilization, and then it crops twice, right? So you've already cropped in because of the digital image stabilization, and then it crops in again on the 4K. So your 10 or 11 millimeter shot, you know, you're holding it like this. You know what I'm saying? And it's a nice, like, it's a nicely framed image, and it looks super good, like super good. But yeah, so I still would say if you're really looking to get into some kind of vlogging or just an all-around good camera, like, I could not recommend a better place to start. I was very, very happy with this camera, and because of that, when I was looking to buy my first full frame, I was already pushed all the way into the camp of Canon, just because it was just such a great experience to learn how to do cameras, to learn how to do video. It was a very fun and like exhilarating experience. And so now I'm in a place where I'm making some money doing video stuff, and you know, and it's really cool. I really feel like this camera opened up a really cool world for me, you know. And so this is the only video review I've ever done like this. I don't plan on doing many of them, but I just wanted to give you this isn't my full-time job. It's more of like a side hustle thing. I still have a full-time job, you know, at the church I'm at. But yeah, that's my honest review of the Canon 90D. If you have any questions about it, I'll answer anything you've got. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. Have a great day.